Welcome to the Institute of All Intelligent Life. My name is Allan Keislar. We're now drawing to the end of our course on extraterrestrial spirituality. And therefore I'm today not going to talk very much, introduce new information. I will just repeat a little bit of what I said yesterday when I by mistake thought it was time for the class. And then I will take any questions. So I just want to repeat, because it was a very, very interesting experience I had over the weekend when I met Matthew Fox, a great Christian mystic, considered probably the leading Christian mystic in America today, by most people anyway. And we had a very fascinating conversation in which I asked him several questions, and he really appreciated my questions. Actually, he asked me, where is this coming from? You really know how to ask good questions. I think I was asking him questions that he had never heard before. So I was thinking this is the benefit of two things. One is extraterrestrial information, and another is because I realized, actually in the discussion I mentioned Sufis, and I then realized that there is a lot of very important information that Sufis have that Western or Christian mystics have not really understood very much, or have not really grappled with themselves, about specifically the nature of God. And in reply to one of my questions about the nature of God, in fact, when I referred to Allama Iqbal's statement that Allah is an individual, Matthew Fox was a little stunned, I think, even at first. And he said in response to the question about God being an individual, he said, well, in the West we usually think about God as a person, but in the East there is an impersonal concept of God. Of course, he didn't mean Islam in terms of the East then. He meant Buddhism and Hinduism. So I realized that there is a lot that Western and Christian mystics can learn from Sufis. And actually he refers to Hafiz and he refers to Rumi in his talks quite a bit. So they are aware of the Muslim mystics, but I don't think they've really understood some of the very clear ideas that Muslim mystics have already wrestled with, that they've struggled, you might say, with these ideas of the impersonal and personal notions of God. So the Western mystics, at least the modern ones that I'm familiar with in the West today, they seem to be not very satisfactorily or very completely clear on this question. They haven't really struggled with it enough, as Muslim mystics certainly have. So I'm really looking forward to further discussions with him. I'm going to be meeting him in a couple of weeks again, about 2.5 weeks, when he is having a program in Berkeley, California. So I'm looking forward to receiving any input from you all, and I can share with him any questions that you have also. All right, so let me just think what points I should make again. Yes, I think the most important ones are when I told him that first that you have said, because he said in his talk, that being is God, or God is being. And I referred to a very famous Christian theologian and mystic, perhaps the most famous theologian of Christianity in the 20th century, named Tilak, who called God the ground of being. That is, these people, they even say that God is not a being like other beings, but they think that God is therefore being itself, or is somehow the ground of being, and is not a being. So when I asked him about Meister Eckhart's idea, specifically because he has written a book recently about Meister Eckhart, a great medieval Christian mystic who lived at the same time as Rumi, actually. And this idea, I believe, is coming from Meister Eckhart, that God is being, or being is God. And so I asked him, well, what is the relationship of that being to consciousness? And he first said, well, the translation should be isness rather than being. Isness is a better translation of that idea that Meister Eckhart and other mystics have discussed. So I said, isness, I like that translation better. Maybe that's a good translation. Because in the Bible, God is quoted as saying to Moses, when Moses asks who he is or what is his name, God answers, I am that I am. So, am means isness. He is talking about isness. But, okay, but who is that isness? Isn't that an individual? Isn't that a conscious being? Or a conscious isness? So, Michael Fox was, I think, very interested in my questions, and he appreciated them. He said, you really know how to ask questions. So the conclusion of our discussion was that God must be an individual. He must be conscious. As I mentioned yesterday, Matthew Fox said, quoting St. Thomas Aquinas, who maybe is the greatest Christian thinker of all time, according to many people, he said that God's fundamental characteristic is joy. So Matthew Fox said, joy means conscious. If he has joy, he must be conscious. So he approved that idea, that God must be conscious, and when I asked him about God being an individual, he stopped and couldn't quite answer the question, frankly. He didn't know quite how to answer that. So I'm looking forward to discussing that when we meet again in a couple of weeks. And in the meantime, I'm going to be open to give you an opportunity to ask him questions through me also. So you can ask me now any questions that you might want me to ask Matthew Fox, or if you have any questions for me from this course that I haven't answered, because I've been very busy and I have not had a chance to go through all the questions that people may have asked, you can ask them now. All right. हाफिज हजरत रहमान, आप ये ज़रा पता दे पाकिस्तान में गुर्बत क्यों है और इसकी वजह क्या है? So this is not what our class is about. I want questions about this class. So perhaps you can ask that question in the next Urdu chat, which doesn't have any specific topics. But I will just say, your question is about, for those that don't know Urdu that may be listening, why is Pakistan poor? And my answer would be that Pakistan is not poor. Pakistan is a very wealthy country, really. Natural resources, everything from natural gas, gold, coal, many precious metals, natural beauty, human resources. Pakistan is practically unequaled by any country in terms of that wealth. So, but Pakistan appears to be wealthy mainly because of corruption in the government, which is a result of bribery by international bankers and by the cabal, by the Illuminati. So Pakistan is not really poor, but because of the misadministration, the so-called leaders stealing the wealth of Pakistan and putting it in their secret bank accounts in Switzerland or whatever, and because of the evil controllers behind them who are bribing them and threatening them if they don't do what they say. Therefore, Pakistan appears to be poor at this time. But I've said before that that may be God's plan to protect Pakistan too. Anyway, that's a long issue which I don't want to get into more because that's not what this class is about. Another question from Hafiz Hazrat Rahman. I'm not going to even read it because I just noticed that it's not about this class. So please ask questions about this class and I will try to answer them. Umar Khan, do you think external powers have something to do with Pakistan's bad situation? Well, yes, of course, that's what I just said also. But I don't want to go into that topic anymore now. Rafiya Latif, Salam sir, I have a long comment to make which may include questions, but probably I can't type here right now. Oh, well, if you want to, I wish I knew how to do this. I can bring you onto the camera. Let me see if I can figure out how to, because I don't know how you do this. Do you know how you can send a request to me to add you? Then I can add you right onto this and you can ask the questions so everybody can hear them. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Okay. Rafiya ji, I'm inviting you to come onto the camera. If you're willing to ask your questions, you can just speak them. Is that okay? You can accept my invitation to you. If it's a long comment and have questions, please come on and ask them if you're not embarrassed to do that. This is an opportunity for you to ask your questions. You don't have to type them out. All right, if you don't want to come on the air, then you'll have to type out your questions. Umar Khan, you can have a private video chat with him. Yes, if you don't want to do it in front of everybody, we can have a private video chat. All right, well, let me just say one or two things more since there are no more questions right now. And I'm sorry that I haven't had a chance. I was away this weekend and didn't have any chance at all to look at questions from previous classes. And I've been very busy today also. I'm writing a book, finishing up some chapters, which I've just sent to the publisher that I hope will publish the book. So I'm sorry that I have not gotten more questions. So I'll just say in the last class of this course, which will be 3 days from now, I am going to summarize the class. I'm going to go through and talk about what I consider the important points, and that's what the last class will be about. Okay, so Rafiya is confirming that she wants to chat with me privately. Okay, that's fine. All right, so that's all I was going to do today, and since we don't have any more questions about these topics of extraterrestrial spirituality, I'm just going to end the class, and I will chat with Rafiya Latif, and maybe if some of you are interested, after I have a chat with her, if she has some very good questions that I want to share with others, I may come right back on, or I may raise those questions in 3 days when we have the final class. Okay, peace be with you all, and thank you all for listening, and I'm sorry we didn't have more questions. Okay.